My name is Eryn Lueders, and I'm going to talk today about how I nearly tripled marketing influence revenue at my organization in the first 18 months of joining. So, a little bit about me. I have a little over 13 years of experience in growth and digital marketing, predominantly in startup and scale up B2B SaaS. And my bread and butter is being scrappy and doing great data driven marketing. And then this is my family looking dapper for the Kentucky Derby. One other piece of information that may be interesting to know about me is that I'm a twin. And growing up as an identical twin in the 90s, there's something that I was completely obsessed with, as were probably most girls, and that was Mary-Kate and Ashley. And in order to pay homage to all the books, all the movies, everything I was obsessed with, and might still be a little bit obsessed with, is I'm going to lean into some of their top roles and some of their top learnings to help guide me through this presentation. So marketing as a team of one is difficult, right? You have to make really smart, efficient, effective decisions. And so there was a 5-point framework that I followed leading into how I could build a sustainable content marketing engine, how I was leveraging niche communities, leaning into simplicity with paid media, working effectively with sales and being that bridge, and then also using data. So let's get started. Building a lean, sustainable content marketing engine. So when I joined Basis Theory in late 2022, there wasn't much of a content strategy. The blog had just barely launched. There was some publishing. There was really no focus. It was a lot of ad hoc writers just writing about their life and some of the roles they had worked on previously. And then in late 2022, when I joined, I started building a content calendar. And so there were two primary areas where I was getting content ideas. The first was watching sales demos through what we use as Fireflies. But if your company records demos at all, these are such a goldmine for information. The first thing that I wanted to know was, what are the questions the prospects continue to ask every single time? What do they want to know? And how can I create content that'll best fit that earlier in the pipeline? And then what do they need to know? What are things the sales team continues to bring up that maybe isn't being asked, maybe isn't being supported in some other marketing function, and trying to layer that as well into the content calendar. And then second, I was reviewing competitor content. So we use Ahrefs competitor analysis. And it's a very cool tool where you can see what all of your competitors are writing about, their keywords they're targeting, their pages. And you can see what the table stakes are that you should have at a minimum that you should be writing about, so you're part of the conversation. But then we were also trying to see what weren't they writing about. So by reviewing that, I could see some top areas. We're in payments specifically, and I could see some key payments elements, some new regulations that had come out, and nobody was writing about it, but I knew our audience cared about it. And then as I started organizing and planning, it was important for me to block off time and stay consistent. The best way I was able to do that was by planning ahead using Asana. And so this is just an example of way back in April of a screenshot of what a week looked like. And you can see it's roughly consistent. There's certain days I was posting, certain days I wasn't. And it was keeping me accountable, but it was also public to the organization so they could know what to expect and when. One thing I want to call out here, though, is most people probably don't think they're a writer, but they are. So just like Kylie and Taylor Hunter, when they first got their licenses and getting there, they decided, let's just do a cross-country road trip to the Winter Olympics. And I don't know about you, but that feels overly confident. If they can do a cross-country road trip, I feel like you can probably write some content. Most of the worry people have is just getting started. You're going to have to edit and iterate anyway, and you're going to get better over time. Use tools to help you out. You can leverage things like Gemini and ChatGPT, even Ahrefs, to help with keyword research, to help with researching topics, to help with outlining. And of course, use something like Grammarly to help with editing. If available, try to see if you have a budget or resources so that you can get a freelance writer or even an industry expert that can just review some of your content. That can make your job so much easier. But even if you can't, those tools should be able to help. And so how it's going. Once I started implementing this strategy in early 2023, you can really start to see the improvement in organic traffic and in the keywords we've been ranking for that are no longer just branded. So 2, we had to think about distributing this. And the best way we knew how, or the best way I knew how, was to find niche communities for audience research. So, like the Trenchcoat Twins, who wanted to solve any crime by dinner time, they had to get incredibly creative with the way they were doing this. They didn't have a lot of resources, they didn't have a lot of times, and they were just kids. So they had to be persistent. And that's what it takes in order to distribute your content as an audience of one. To get to your target audience, there are 3 ways I like to leverage. First is Reddit. Everybody loves Reddit. I feel like you're hearing more and more about it each day. You can search topics, solutions, pain points. You can also start to find out a lot about your audience in there, and you can start to engage with them. Search Engine Journal has some really phenomenal Reddit tips in the form of a recent webinar. I recommend anyone who's interested in doing marketing on Reddit to watch that webinar. It's phenomenal. And it'll help you to understand how to best engage without being salesy. Redditors do not like people selling their content, but you can still be helpful and you can still provide resources and still help share your solution without being salesy. And that goes the same for communities. So the way that we found some of the top communities that we've joined are by just doing a quick Google search. So for us, it's payments professionals organization, or payments organizations, top payments organizations. So we were able to join some of these as a solution provider. We've started sponsoring some community events. And if you don't have the budget for any of that, you can just engage in some of the forums, start to be a part of some of the conversation, similar to how you would handle Reddit. Start to be that thought leader and start to be helpful so they recognize your name. And then, the tried and true that many people do already, that's still good today, is working at industry events. So we like to register to speak at some of our more niche, smaller, intimate events that are in the industry. We can also sponsor if the money allows, but otherwise, walk the floors, network, start to be a part of the conversation. You'd be surprised at how much that helps. Third, keeping it simple with paid media. So there's a lot of people probably going to be presenting on this already, so I won't cover too much on paid media. But one thing I will say, when you're a team of one, especially if you're just getting started, keep it very simple. Pick one platform per funnel stage to begin. So when we first started, top of funnel was programmatic and display through StackAdapt, which we love StackAdapt. I'm a big fan there. For middle of funnel, we were doing Google search and Google ads and LinkedIn ads. And then bottom of funnel, the same. But again, if you really want to start to lean into a specific platform, it can benefit you significantly. And here's the thing, you're probably going to be saying the same thing if you're more of a generalist and you're not a paid media specialist. But I like to take a little page out of Tess and Emily's book in Billboard Dad, where they took matters into their own hands, and you can too. So their dad, they had recently lost their mom, and their dad was looking for some companionship. And so they decided that they wanted to help him find a new girlfriend. And so overnight, they grabbed a paint bucket and just colored out a billboard for their dad. And what's funny about this is it's actually a pretty good ad. It's got some basic to the point messaging. There's some fun wordplay. His name is Max. They say cool to the max. It's handwritten, so it's authentic. And there's even a clear call to action. I'm still not entirely sure how they could paint a photo of their dad so nicely. Even, 20 years later, that still kind of keeps me up at night. But the takeaway here is done is better than perfect. This isn't a perfect billboard by any means, but if you follow the 80% rule and go with 80% is done enough to go live, most people won't notice and you can continue to iterate. Learn the platforms that you're going to be working on. So Google Skills Shop, LinkedIn Marketing Labs are 2 examples. They're free and they're through the platforms that you'll be leveraging, and you can help do a lot more for a lot less money if you can just understand the platforms and the nuances. Plus, a big reminder, you only need one ad to go live. You don't have to recreate the wheel. You don't have to create this whole platform, this whole suite, a whole campaign. Just one ad is enough to go live. So again, keeping it simple. You can leverage AI and different tools like Canva to help with graphics and headlines. When it comes to creating a very basic landing page, tie it into what the ad said. It doesn't have to be this lengthy thing. It can be a headline, some key points, a basic graphic that they've probably already seen in the ad, and a form or call to action. You can improve later. That's what it takes to go live. You can always improve it later. And then for about 30 minutes a week, it may take less over time. Check out the keywords that are coming in. Put any negative keywords in place that are certainly not relevant. Look at the domains that your ads are coming in on, especially when it comes to programmatic and display. Make sure those are relevant, make sure they're performing, cut out the ones that aren't. And then with LinkedIn, review those demographics. Only target those that are relevant. You don't want to waste money. You don't have the time or resources to do that. And then when you're iterating, continue to update copy and graphics quarterly and continue to create and test additional ads as you have time. This all kind of layers on itself. So as you learn more about content, you learn more about your audience and your communities, you can start leveraging that and leaning into that for your ads. And if you're worried that you don't know what you're doing, I started everything from scratch when I joined. We had been leveraging a paid media expert to manage our ads. And very quickly, I was able to improve our cost per lead. This is more recent numbers, but we were seeing actually even more dramatic numbers right away. We improved our cost per lead significantly, and the quality of leads is far better than it was before. Working effectively with sales. So sales and marketing often don't see eye to eye. We already know this. This is a common thing at organizations, but you may be rolling your eyes. Everyone does win when sales wins, and it's important for sales and marketing to get along. Just like Jane and Roxy in New York Minute, who both had very different things they needed to do in order to skip school and stay away from the truancy officer that day, we're more effective together than we are apart. And there's two areas that I like to cover here. The first is support sales. So we don't have a marketing operations person or a rev ops person. So I always love to lean in and be that person and be that resource for sales. I like to create automated notifications for alignment upon deal creation, for closed won, and I like to be sales' biggest fan. I love supporting them and seeing when they're benefiting as well. And a side benefit, since I created these, is I've put lead source in there, and I've also called out when it's marketing influenced. So then while I'm supporting sales, others are also seeing that marketing is making an impact, and it makes the overall aura of the organization a little bit stronger. And then set a monthly sales and marketing meeting. You be in charge of that meeting, 30 minutes a month even. Always make sure that you show up, even if not everyone else can. And start getting questions, asking them questions that you would love answers for, so you can start creating more sales enablement content. You can start making their roles a little bit easier by opening the dialogue and creating support. So just continue to have these meetings, and you'll be surprised at how much you can learn that you didn't learn from some of those sales calls. And last is using data. So when it comes to data, there's a really easy way for people to want to gather all the information they possibly can. And it can inundate you, it can be overwhelming. And I'm going to say right now, please don't measure everything. You can think data first, but don't only rely on data. And so just like Lizzie and Shane on The Challenge, where this was like a Survivor-esque movie, they were both placed on different teams that were not very good, but they had to work with what they had. And they ended up doing pretty well. I don't want to spoil it, but it went pretty well for them. So work with what you've got here. I don't want to rely too much on this here, but if you don't know where to start, here are some recommendations I have for some of the funnel metrics that you can take a look at for top of funnel, middle funnel, and bottom. It'll get you start to thinking about pipeline influence, marketing influence, and seeing what's working and what's not. There are 3 types of reports I like to create. Weekly, I like to do more of an internal report that can reference how things are going. So this is more for me, but it helps me see if there's anything working well, something that's not working well, and I can quickly address. Monthly, I do automated company dashboards. These are the red and green arrows. These are looking at some channel and campaign marketing attribution, and also some notes on what's upcoming, a little bit on what we did, what's performing. And then quarterly, you've got to know if you're meeting your goals. All of these roll up into one another. So with that one, you can start to take a look at some of the revenue, pipeline, and even forecasting. A reporting example that I like to use is one that I send in Slack every single week. On the right, you've got my reporting from Looker Studio that is automated. It sends right to me every single week in my email inbox. I don't even have to do anything with it. And then I pull some metrics out from there, some key metrics. I link to them in Slack. I send it in the marketing channel every single week. This is more for me, but at Basis Theory, we like to build in the open, and other people will read through it and start to see the influence marketing has. So as you're looking at reporting, I don't want to spend too much time on this necessarily, but try your best to automate everything you can. Here's some examples of what you can use. Like I said, I love Looker Studio. There's CRM reports and native reporting as well. So How I nearly tripled marketing influence revenue. I was incredibly consistent with content marketing. I got creative with research and targeting. I went back to the basics with paid media. I was the bridge between sales and marketing, and I measured what mattered the most. Thank you.